So a screencast is what you're looking at right here, actually. A screencast is where you're recording the screen of your computer, and at the same time you're narrating. You can also embed an image from your webcam, like down in the corner if you wanted to as well, something like that. The easiest, best way to do this with especially a staff Chromebook is to use something called Screencastify. So you'll see right up here that these are all my extensions that I have active right now. And that one that looks like the little arrow is Screencastify. So when I'm on the site that I want to use, whatever that site may be, I would just click on this and it's going to open this up. And you'll see right now as I'm making this, we haven't gotten the premium set up yet. So it's still the free version. But most of these options are exactly the same. So it's asking me, because I'm on my PC, it's asking, do I want to do the desktop? I probably just want to do a browser tab, because with the browser tab, you'll see in a second what that'll do. Here's where I would decide if I wanted to embed my webcam or not, so I can turn that off if I don't want my webcam to come on. I do need to make sure the microphone is turned on so that it's actually picking up my voice. When I'm done, I would just go ahead, and I'm not going to do that right now, but I would click the record button, and it would go ahead and record the video. With Screencastify, once it's done, it will then save that video back in Google Drive. It'll create a folder called Screencastify, and any of your videos that you create will be loaded there. So it's really easy to use, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, or if you run into any issues, please don't hesitate to reach out. But I wanted to talk about some of the uses for screencasting, especially in a situation like this with remote teaching. One of the things that obviously comes to mind is as a substitute for direct instruction. So you may not be able to stand up in front of your kids and teach them content, but this could be a substitute for that in some sense. And one of the easiest ways to do that is, I'm going to come up here and go to Google Drive, would be in Google Drive to, and this just happens to be the one that I put on the website for the remote teaching stuff, but would be to put together a Google slide presentation and then hit present so that this goes full screen, and you can actually record, it will record this presentation as you walk through it. So you could have different slides where you're explaining the content and do it that way. You could do the same thing with instructions. So if you have, let's say you've posted an assignment for them in Classroom, we all know that sometimes it's difficult to read a set of written instructions for something that's maybe there's a couple steps that are a little complex, or you want to make sure they really understand what you're asking them to do. Trying to write all that down and have them read it and really make sure they understand those instructions might be tough. But doing a screencast where you can show them the instructions and at the same time talk about, now make sure you do this and remember when we talked about this in class, and those kinds of things could be really helpful. The other thing is, if you have a website that you're going to be having them use, you can always also use a screencast where you're having them go and actually take a look at that particular website. You could show them what you want them to do. So, there's a lot of ways that you can use it. The one thing I would keep in mind is that even though with the premium version, you have basically, you do have unlimited video length. You can have a screencast. Technically, that's hours long if you wanted it. My advice when you're creating those kinds of videos is always keep it short and sweet. I know, just dealing with adults, if I create a screencast that's more than about the length this one's getting to right now, which is 4.5 minutes, you start losing people. Getting people to sit and watch a video that's more than a few minutes long is a big ask in this day and age, unfortunately, with shortened attention spans. So if you have something that's more complex than that, or content that you think is going to take a bigger chunk of time to try to explain, think about creating multiple videos. So instead of just one big massive screencast where you explain everything, think about how you might be able to break the topic up into smaller chunks. It's useful for a couple of reasons. One, the kids are actually more likely to watch it, A, and B, it also then can be better used as a tool later on. If the kids need to review content, review material, it's a lot easier to find what they're looking for if it's broken down into chunks, and they can just kind of watch the piece that they need. So again, a lot of options, a lot of possible uses for screencasts. And again, Screencastify, easiest way to do that with our staff Chromebooks.